Okay, let's start a new project and name it exercise week 5, exercise number 3. And basically in this one we would like to do the same thing that's what we did before, but notice this time I would like to use this and or. And basically because we solved this problem before, if you remember, we did something like this. When we that's not this one. I commented it because we wanted to play with something. So now this is the one that asks the user, and if it's greater than 100 we display. We did not use the end because basically, well, it was not required, but just we did not know about it. But now here you see this, I'm displaying error in two cases. So if it's greater than 100 and if it's not greater or equal to 0, which means if it's less than 0. So if it's less than 0 or if it's greater than 100, I would like to display error. So which basically I'm going to just to copy this whole thing and do it here because not here but here, which basically, yes, this is just telling me you would like to import the scanner that you're using, so it will add the import for me. So I just read a number and then I'm asking a question based on if it's greater than 100, this is what to display, and so on. Just notice that as long as you follow this kind of a pattern, I'm just trying to go back to my representation. Like imagine that these are the different values. I have this one is 0. Let me just put it this way. If it's less than 0, I'm going to display error. And if it's 0 and above, I'm going to display f up to 60. So if it's 0 or up to 60. When it's 60, should I display what? So f is not 60 is not part of what I'm going to display in the f. In the f, that's why you see when the grade is equal to 60, I'm going to be displaying d. So the 60 is part of what's here. And let me just put something like this is some kind of, so this is a d up to 70, and then 70 is also part of the c that is there, and this is c, and the c up to 80, and then we have 90. But when 90, also same thing actually, 90, that's a b up to 90, but 90 is part of the a up to 100, and 100 is also part of the a. So this is a, and this 100 is part of it. But after that, this should be an error. So as long as you follow this kind of, you see, this is the question that we asked. If it's above 100, we display error. If not, I'm going to ask the next question: is it 90 or above? Which means it includes here all this. I'm going to display A. If not, is it greater than or equal to 80? So I'm going to display here because I know I'm just going to stop before 90 because I said in the previous question that it should be above 90. So if it's not above 90, which means the number is not here, which means it can be also equals as I mentioned. So it means it can be somewhere here. But if my question here is about is greater than 80, I'm just specifying that it's going to be only here. And if you keep doing this, the only thing that you can improve here is doing something like this. Grade less than 0. And you don't need this if anymore, this else anymore. And actually, you know what? This question, you don't need it anymore. Even the last question, you don't need to ask it. Let me back up a little bit. I'm not asking this question, it's still working? Yes. Why? Because in this case, if this was true, that means the number is either greater than 100 or less than 0. So if it's not, I know that the number is between these things, between 0 and 100. As soon as I answer no to this question, I know that my values, what I'm going to display is either F, D, C, B, or A, because what is left is between here, between 0 and 100. And now if it's greater than 90, I'm going to display A. If it's greater than 80, B. 70, that's C. 60, it's greater than 60, I'm going to display D. If it's not greater than 60, what is left? That's F. That's F. There's nothing, I don't really need to ask this question. If I'm asking, that's okay. If I leave it there, it's not a problem. But I'm asking a question that is obvious. I don't need to ask that question. And that's the advantage of using this OR here. And let's prove it that it's working by just using these numbers that are above the 100 or less than 100, and then try the ones that are giving us an A, for example, or 95, or even 90. That's all gives us an A. And then 85, that gives us a B, or even an 80, that gives a B. 75 or 70, 65, that's D, and then 60, that's another D, and then 55 now is going to display F, even though I did not ask a question, because that's logic. My first question asked is my number is between this, is in this area or in this area. If it was the case, I'm displaying error and then stop and get out. If the answer to this question is false, and now this is what's interesting, if the answer to this question is false, that means my number is between 0 and 100, because it's not greater than 0 and it's not less than 0. Sorry, it's not greater than 100 and not less than 0. So I know it's between these two numbers, these two values, 0 and 100. If I ask the question that shows me the A and the B and the C and the D, I don't need to ask the last one, because if it's not one of these, if it's not A, it's not B, it's not C, and it's not D, what is left? Only F is left, because the errors, we dealt with them in the first question. And that's the new thing about as compared to the previous one. Is this okay? Okay, that's done. Let's move on to the next one.